Chapter 10 continued. Prasadasvasya buddhiryat sattvikam sukhamidrisham vishayanam tu yo bhogo bhasate mritavat puram. He now describes the nature of Tamasic happiness. People who become dazed and foggy after having alcohol and other intoxicating drinks and consider it as happiness are in delusion, which is indicative of Tamasic happiness. Excessive indulgence in sexual activities, consuming intoxicating substances such as afu, ganja, bhang, and other drugs, and considering those to be happiness are all examples of Tamasic happiness. Attachment to wife and children and being overly anxious about them, getting entangled in their enchantments and considering this to be happiness, are also indicative of Tamasic happiness. In short, being caught in the web of me and mine, and one who thinks that is happiness, is Tamasic in nature. Hala halabhivante yad rajasam sukhamidrisham tandri pramada sambhutam alasya prabhavam chayat. Now I shall tell you about the nature of the three types of sorrows. Those sorrows which are bound to happen, even if one follows the Swadharma, are Sattvic sorrows. Those who engage in acquiring material objects for sensual pleasures undergo a lot of difficulties in the process. These are called rajasic sorrows. Those who consume alcohol and other intoxicating substances undergo a lot of sorrow to get and consume those substances, which are tamasic in nature. In this manner, there are several kinds of triads which are found everywhere. Only some of them are mentioned here as indicative knowledge. Shri Gajanan Prabhu says, the sadhaks who make effort to attain liberation can do so only after imbibing Sattva guna within their personality. So, all their actions are Sattva karma. The karmas done according to one's swadharma, but for the sake of enjoyment, makes the nature of the person rajoguna. The only thing to be kept in mind while performing one's karma is to do only those that are good for the body and through which the body will remain happy. This is the yardstick to decide what actions should be done and what to be avoided. This is indicative of tamasic nature. Now I shall tell you the consequences of these three types of actions. Those who consume substances having predominance of tamoguna are tamasic in nature. Such people go to hell after death. A person with a predominance of rajoguna is bound by the circle of birth and death. Those with a predominance of sattva guna attains shuklagati, which leads him to liberation. How are the three gunas useful in the play of the world? How do they contribute in terms of prosperity? He says, if you see the origin of creation and the dissolution of the world, then you can see the prominence of tamoguna. The original form of ignorance is tamoguna. Its source is the deep sleep state. Thus, the original essence of tamoguna is from the deep sleep state of tamoguna. That is how the dream state, which is sattva-guna in nature, and the awakened state, which is rajoguna in nature, get created. This means that since sattva-guna and rajoguna have their origin in tamoguna, it is at the orders of tamoguna that sattva and rajas do their respective work. That is the reason why the deep sleep state is a state of joy. In short, by remaining equanimous, the tamoguna sushupti runs the world of dualities. Therefore, even in a stable state, tamoguna is considered the most excellent. At the time of dissolution, when there is annihilation of the whole universe, the dream and waking state of all things in the world get absorbed into the state of sushupti. The threefold qualities of Maya as bearers of power are experienced in the state of sushupti, wherein all dualities get united. The sight at the time of annihilation indicates the greatness of tamoguna. If tamoguna is great, sattva is medium, and rajoguna is inferior. But each of the gunas is glorious in its own area. When there is desire that is explicitly seen everywhere in the Jiveshwara, it is the influence of rajoguna. Even if one sings bhajans with desire, It is Ganesha's door that all those desires are fulfilled. This is Rajoguna. Even though during the creation of the whole universe, the creation of causal matter and consciousness carry on the play of the world, it is an expression and acceptance of Rajoguna. So, what is Ganesha, or what are Shiva, Vishnu, and other Ishwaras who are engaged in the administration of the world? Why do they play their part? Is it due to the power of Rajoguna? Thus, there is no doubt that in the endowment of desire, the only enjoyer of the entire prosperity is Rajoguna. It is due to the inclusion of Rajoguna that the greed of Parameshwara's prosperity is created in Shiva and the other gods. Wherever the lordship is seen, there is predominance of Rajoguna. The same importance is not there with the other gunas. The grandeur is due to Tamoguna's assistance. Therefore, the enjoyment of prosperity is through the medium of Tamoguna. Without the craving for instant happiness, the tendency for enjoyment does not last, nor does it increase. It is due to Tamoguna, which is nothing but the influence of ignorance. In other words, the absence of a discriminative intellect not only increases its manifestation, but perpetuates it as well. Therefore, Tamoguna is a medium. An individual with a desire-filled intellect is not afraid of indulging in sinful deeds. He only wants to enjoy, but in the end he is engulfed with sorrows of all kinds. Such actions end in sin, but do not give rise to Tamoguna. Hence, Tamoguna is only a catalytic medium. Sattva and Rajoguna karma. Sattva guna is characterized by discriminating intellect that carries a fear for sins and hence does not fully follow Rajoguna. Therefore, he does not have prominence where Rajoguna rules. Without considering it improper for enjoyment, he subjugates the body. Thus, there is no importance of Sattva guna at all. Enjoyment of the body is due to the excellence of Rajoguna. Now he talks about the excellence of Sattva guna. The path to liberation alone can give permanent happiness, and that is possible only by engaging in actions without desire. This is the most important influence of Sattva guna. The dualities seen everywhere are perishable. So, where there is Sattva guna, there is a constant discrimination and distinction between truth and untruth, and the fact that there cannot be true prosperity. Since the body is dependent on external things for its sustenance and nourishment, it causes a bondage within them. This bondage is the source of sorrow. Therefore, it is important and necessary to be free from that bondage. He gives an example of external dependence. When a person is bitten by a scorpion, he suffers pain. It becomes so unbearable that he feels like getting rid of the body itself. But that is impossible. Knowing that this external dependence is inevitable and doing karma without desires is the only way to get rid of that sense of bondage is possible only through Sattva guna, that is her glory or prosperity. Since this kind of prosperity is indestructible, it is the only way by which one can break the cycle of birth and death. When a sadhak with a sattvic nature sings Ganesha's bhajans, without holding any desires, he becomes free of all bondage and goes on to the path of liberation and permanent happiness. Therefore, Sattva guna is the king and most excellent on the path of liberation. Rajoguna is medium, Tamoguna is inferior. Rajoguna is binding, even though we know it is the illusion of the body's pleasures. It continues to remain due to the preordained destiny. Therefore, to some extent, karma with desires does take place. So, where there is a prominence of Sattva guna, Rajoguna is medium because of thoughts of this world and the world beyond. Again, under Sattva guna's rule, Tamoguna's nature is experienced to a very small extent. This is because of the nature of Tamoguna, and it disregards rules of discipline and does whatever one likes without caring for the resultant sorrow, which does not get any encouragement. How do we experience the presence of the three gunas in activities if they are beyond us? How are their results known? Explaining them, Shri Gajanan Prabhu says, King Varenya, even though these three gunas may be beyond us and in their own way may be superior or inferior, their sensitivity to bodily pleasures is predominant due to the influence of the illusory Maya. Thus, without allowing them to take hold of us, we should do activities according to our destiny. One should sing my bhajans. This is the manifestation of the siddhi of selfishness to attain the absolute truth. Sarvada mohakam swasya sukham tamasamidrisham rajan brahma pitrividham antastaditi vedataha trilokeshu tridha bhutam akhilam bhupa vartate na tadasti yadetairyan muktam syat trividhair gunai. In the end, he explains about the three gunas in Brahma. Shri Gajanan Prabhu says, I told you about the creation of the world endowed with the three gunas. Now I shall tell you how the support of Brahma is based on these three gunas. How to know the manifestation of the threefold Brahma in the world. Listen. Knowing Brahma based on gunas. They can be known firstly by Om, secondly by Tat, and thirdly by Sat. Omkar, the state of Asipada, is the root of all three. It plays in three ways in this world. Prakriti, with its fivefold aspects of Deha, namely the gross, subtle, causal, greater causal, and Kaivalya, manifests in innumerable ways, forming the Tvampada. This is supported by consciousness through the powers of the five types of Dehi, which together form the Tatpada. That is the root of the experience of the individual, Shiva, Shakti, Shama, and Surya Brahma. This Deha Dehi form of causal matter and consciousness becomes a non-differentiated form, and one actualizes the experience of Asipada Brahma. This is the Asipada of objects because it contains traces of Maya as a player. When one experiences oneness after the accomplishment of superconscious meditative union, it is called the Asipada, devoid of objects, which is the absolute of Swananda, that is the fifth. In short, this play of causal consciousness matter is the form of Tattvamasi, which is of three types. Where they get completed and united into one is the Asipada, which is the fourth. This Asipada devoid of objects is the fifth. So the Asipada with objects in the Bodha Rupa, Brahma, or Brahma of consciousness. For this, Asipada with objects forms the Omkar, the origin of all, and therefore it is called Ompada Brahma. Now let us look at the Tatpada. Knowledge of different types of karmas is detailed in Veda Shastras, Puranas, and other knowledge bestowing scriptures. The sadhak who is a doer does good and bad karmas and gets the corresponding fruits, which could be heaven or hell after death. Therefore, attaining of fruits is through Tatpada. This is the second Brahma. The Satpada form, which is said to be the third Brahma, which is the origin of various karmas. So the different types of actions with their fruits of merits and sins, including yoga karma, leads to the experience of being in the state of Brahma, which is included in the word Sat. This is the third Brahma. So the Jagad Omkar is one pada. The dealings in the form of Jagat Kriya, indicated by the word Sat, is the second pada, and action in the form of fruits is the third pada. In short, the administration of the world is Omkar. The bestower of fruits and the administrator of the fruits of action are indicated by the word Tat, and the different forms of actions that deserve the fruits is the Satpada. Ministers and other administrators are assistants who are representatives of Satpada and therefore Brahma. Thus one power, namely Brahma, for the sake of administration of the play of the world becomes three forms, namely Om, Tat and Sat. Understanding in this manner, the discriminative sadhak does good karmas in such a way that he fulfills his duties of his dharma and surrenders all his actions, including as Om Tat Sat Brahmarpanamastu. This makes all three differences melt away, and one attains the state of Brahma, which is the culmination into the divine truth. This is the secret to be known. The state of Deha and Dehi is one type of Loka. The fruits of action indicated by the word Tat are the second Loka, and the bestower of fruits, which is originally of different kinds of actions, forming the Satpada, is the third Loka. These three Lokas become one in the non-differentiated state. The three Lokas of the three Padas are only a formality for the purpose of administration of the play of the world. Innumerable play is experienced in these three Lokas. They are too numerous to be described, but their creation and dissolution takes place in Ganesha itself. Therefore, they are taken as his play. In this manner, one should meditate upon me and accomplish the Abheda Pada. Everything is Ganesha's form. After knowing this for certain, one should do everything in the attitude of Om Tat Sat Brahmarpanamastu and surrender everything to Ganesha. Whatever there is can be accommodated under the three types of gunas. There is nothing beyond the three gunas. However, since it is of the gross body, it is limited in scope. If we truly think about it, there are several meanings to the word guna. It also means cleverness. So the one who shows cleverness in the play of the world, namely Omkar, is a guna. Then the word tat, which shows cleverness in bestowing fruits for actions, is a second guna. And the bearer of the actions, the word sat, is the third guna. In this manner, the term guna covers and means a lot of things. So tat pada, tvam pada, and asi pada, or swarga, mrut, and patal, heaven, earth, and hell, are the two types of triads. In Swananda pada, there is a satya, asatya, and sama. In Vidya pada, there are maya, maik, and swanand, meaning swata uttan, parat uttan, and hina. These are the triads. Swananda Brahma is established in the duality of Uttan, but is himself devoid of any duality. The one with objects is the third one, and Swananda Brahma, who is devoid of objects, is the fourth. The fifth one is a state of Brahma, who is established in his own glory. He is with Siddhi and Buddhi and is the absolute whole in the Purna state, devoid of any kind of triad, and his state is Shanti. The Purna Yogamai Atman is always and forever devoid of all gunas and assumes the three gunas only for the purpose of play in the world. Therefore, it is said to have arisen from the indicator of triad, that is the gunas. Brahma Kshatriya Vita Shurdya Swabhavad Bhinna Karminah Tani Tesham Tu Karmani Sankshepate Duna Bruve. Varnashrama Dharma. Fulfillment of siddhis is rooted in the practice of Varnashrama Dharma. Varnashramas are